My family forced me into an arranged marriage with my dad's best friend's son. But I had other plans. I ran away with my boyfriend, and when they found out, they lost it. Now they're blowing up my phone, but I just sent them my wedding photos. I never thought my life would turn into a business deal. But to my parents, that's exactly what marriage was. A contract. A transaction. And I was just a piece to be traded. It started when I turned 22. My dad sat me down, his expression serious. We need to talk about your future. I expected the usual, career advice, life lessons. But instead, he pulled out a photo. A man I barely knew. Thomas, he said proudly. The son of my best friend. A good man. A stable future. It's time to think seriously about marriage. My stomach twisted. They weren't asking. They were telling me. And that's when I realized I wasn't getting a choice. For weeks, they pushed the idea. Think of the family reputation. You'll be taken care of. This is what's best for you. I smiled. Nodded. Pretended to listen. Because while they were busy planning my perfect future, I was planning my escape. I was already in love. His name was Daniel. Not rich. Not connected. But the only person who had ever made me feel free. And when I told him what my family was planning, he grabbed my hands, eyes burning with determination. Then let's leave, he whispered. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. I had 1 week. 1 week before my parents would officially announce my engagement to Thomas. 1 week before I lost control over my own future. And in that time, I had to disappear. The day before I left, my mom took me shopping for wedding jewelry. Not a dress. Not for my opinion. Just jewelry. Like I was already locked into this. Like my thoughts didn't matter. She picked out a gold necklace, nodding in approval. This will look perfect on you for the engagement dinner. I forced a smile. Because in less than 24 hours, I wouldn't be there. That night, I met Daniel at our usual spot, a quiet cafe on the edge of town. I laid out everything. Bus tickets. Cash. Fake reasons to give my parents when I disappeared. He held my hands tightly. Are you sure? I didn't even hesitate. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. At 3 a.m., I packed my bag. Only the essentials. Only what I could carry. I stood by my bedroom door, staring at the house I grew up in. This wasn't just leaving. This was never coming back. Then, before I could change my mind, I slipped out the door and into the night. Daniel was already waiting at the station. No words were needed. Just his hand reaching for mine. The bus doors opened. I stepped inside. And just like that, my old life was gone. The bus ride was silent. Not because we had nothing to say. But because we both knew, once that bus crossed the state line, there was no turning back. I glanced down at my phone. One last deep breath. Then, I turned it off. No tracking. No last-minute calls. No guilt. I had chosen my own future. Now, I just had to live with it. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. Instantly, it vibrated with missed calls. Mom, 17 missed calls. Dad, 9 missed calls. Unknown number, probably Thomas. Then, before I could react, another call came in. I hesitated. Then, I answered. Silence. Then, my mom's voice. Cold. Sharp. Controlled. Where are you? Not are you okay? Not what happened. Just that. I swallowed. I'm safe. Another pause. Then, Her voice dropped. You just ruined everything. I closed my eyes. No, Mom. I just took my life back. Click. She hung up. And for the first time, I felt free. I turned to Daniel, who had been watching quietly. His voice was gentle. Are you okay? I thought about it. Then, slowly, I nodded. Yeah. I think I am. Because no matter what happened next, at least now, it would be my choice. Running away felt like freedom. But freedom comes with a price. And I was about to pay it. I turned my phone back on 2 days later. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed to know how bad it was. Mom, 42 messages. Dad, 17 messages. Thomas, 6 messages. Then, one more name. Grandma, 1 message. I hesitated. Then opened it. It was short. I don't know where you are. But I hope you're safe. And I hope you're happy. Tears burned in my eyes. Because for the first time, someone didn't try to drag me back. Someone just hoped I was okay. And that? That meant everything. Then, I made the mistake of opening my mom's messages. First, begging. Come home, we can talk. Then, guilt. You've humiliated this family. Finally, the threat. If you don't come home, we will find you. I felt my stomach tighten. Daniel saw my face and took my phone. He read the messages. Then he looked at me, voice steady. They're not going to control you anymore. And I believed him. Because now, I wasn't alone. Running away was supposed to mean freedom. But now, it felt like I was still being chased. Every day, more calls. More messages. More threats. My family wasn't just angry. They were furious. And soon, they took it even further. Daniel and I were staying in a small motel, paying in cash, trying to stay off the radar. Then one morning, the receptionist called our room. Ma'am, there's someone here asking for you. My blood went cold. I gripped the phone tighter. Who? A man. Says he's family. I turned to Daniel. My voice was shaking. They found us. Daniel acted fast. Packed our bags. Checked out immediately. Got a ride to the next town. We were moving again. But this wasn't just running away. Now, this was hiding. That night, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I hesitated. Then, I answered. It was my father. And his voice was calm. Too calm. Come home now, or you won't have a home to come back to. I knew what he meant. If I didn't come back, I was done. No inheritance. No family. No second chances. Daniel watched me carefully. Then he spoke. You don't need them, Anna. You have me. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't going back. My father's words echoed in my mind. Come home now, or you won't have a home to come back to. I sat there, gripping my phone, my heart pounding. This was it. The final test. If I didn't go back, I was erased. No more family. No more past. Just me. And Daniel. I took a deep breath. And then, I called my mother. She picked up immediately. Anna, thank God. Where are you? Her voice was shaking, but it wasn't fear. It was control. She thought I was giving in. But she was about to get a reality check. I just wanted to say, I said slowly, carefully, I'm not coming back. Silence. Then, her voice turned sharp. Don't be stupid. You're ruining your life. I closed my eyes. No, Mom, I whispered. I'm finally living it. And then? I hung up. For the last time. I blocked their numbers. Every single one. No more threats. No more guilt. No more control. Daniel squeezed my hand. Are you okay? I thought about it. Then? I smiled. For the first time in months, I could finally breathe. I am now. For the first time in my life, I was free. No more forced expectations. No more family pressure. No more being told who I had to love. It was terrifying. But it was mine. And now? I had to figure out what came next. Daniel and I had planned to run. But we never planned what happened after. We had no home. No jobs lined up. Just each other. It was the first time I had no safety net. And yet? I had never felt safer. We found a small town 2 states away. A cheap apartment. A local diner that needed workers. A fresh start. It wasn't much. But it was ours. Daniel found a job in construction. I started waiting tables. For the first time. We were building something. Not for my parents. Not for anyone else. Just for us. There were moments. Nights when I missed the family I thought I had. Holidays that felt too quiet. But then I'd look at Daniel. The man I chose. The life I chose. And I'd remember. I wasn't alone. I was just finally in control. I knew my parents wouldn't take my decision lightly. But I wasn't prepared for how fast they erased me. It wasn't just about them being disappointed. It was like I had never existed. No dramatic confrontations. No begging me to come back. Just silence. Blocked on social media. No calls. No messages. Not even a single question about where I was. I expected anger. But this? This was colder. I told myself I was ready for this. That I knew what I was walking away from. But the truth? The day I realized my mother had taken down every photo of me in the house, it hit me harder than I thought it would. I wasn't just gone from their lives. They wanted to erase any proof that I was ever there. And for a moment, I questioned everything. I could have had a life where I was accepted, as long as I followed their rules. As long as I married who they chose. Lived how they expected. Became the version of me they wanted. But that wasn't me. And if the price of my freedom was losing people who only loved me on their terms, then maybe I hadn't lost much at all. Losing my family should have broken me. But instead, it set me free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living for them. I was living for me. Daniel and I had planned to run. But we hadn't planned what came after. No home. No savings. No backup plan. It was terrifying. But it was ours. We found a tiny apartment in a quiet town. Daniel worked construction. I got a job as a waitress. Every dollar we earned together. No family connections. No arranged future. No one controlling my every move. It was hard. But for the first time, I woke up happy. Some nights, I thought about it. What if I had stayed? What if I had done what they wanted? I could have been comfortable. But I wouldn't have been me. And when I looked around, at the tiny apartment, at Daniel's tired but happy face, at the life we were building, I knew. I made the right choice. Because this was real. It's been years since I left. Years since I walked away from a life that wasn't mine. And not once, not for a single second, have I regretted it. What happened to them? My parents? They pretended I never existed. Thomas? He married someone else within a year. Their world? It kept moving, just without me in it. They expected me to fail. They thought I would come crawling back. But I never did. What I built instead. Daniel and I built a life together. We got married, not for status, but for love. We started a family, one built on freedom, not control. It wasn't perfect. But it was ours. No more expectations. No more obligations. Just happiness. Sometimes I wonder. What if I had stayed? What if I had done what they wanted? But then I look at my life now. At the love, the freedom, the joy of choosing for myself. And I know. I didn't lose a family. I gained a future. And that? That was the best decision I ever made.